Chosen one, lock your attention on this message right now. That restless feeling in your spirit, the one that kept pulling you back to your phone today, that was not distraction, that was direction. The enemy has been working overtime this week for one reason, and one reason only. He knew this message existed. He knew what would happen the moment you found it before midnight tonight. It all shifts tonight. The stalling, the silence, the feeling that nothing is moving, it all breaks before 11:59. But here is what you need to understand. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is the direct result of what you have been doing in the dark when no one was watching. Think back to that moment this week when you chose not to react. Maybe someone tested you and you bit your tongue when every part of you wanted to respond. Or maybe you were alone and you almost quit, almost deleted everything, almost walked away from the thing you have been building in faith, but something in you held on. You thought that was weakness. You thought that was you failing to fight back. You did not know it then, but that was the moment everything changed. You did not find this recording by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. The Holy Spirit did. This is a divine appointment, scheduled before the foundations of the earth, delivered to you with hours to spare before the clock strikes midnight. Stay until the very last second of this message, because in the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the legal decree that cancels every assignment the enemy launched against your timeline this week. I am going to walk you through the exact moment you unknowingly activated what is coming tonight. And at the end, I am going to give you a declaration so precise that when you speak it out loud, it seals this season shut forever. Do not scroll past this. The version of you that has been praying in the middle of the night, the version of you that has been holding on by a thread, this is the moment their prayers get answered. If you leave now, you leave before the verdict is read. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere around you has not just been quiet, it has been thick, like something is pressing down on every area of your life at the same time. Maybe you woke up at 3:00 inches the morning this week and you could not go back to sleep. You just lay there staring at the ceiling, running through everything you have done wrong, everything that has not come through yet, every promise that still feels like a distant dream. Or maybe you were sitting somewhere completely alone today, going through the motions, smiling when you had to, but inside you felt invisible, like you were doing everything right and still getting nothing back. You feel suspended, like you are standing in a hallway between two doors. The old life is behind you and you cannot go back, but the new one has not opened yet. And in that silence, in that narrow hallway, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie directly into your mind. Listen to your thoughts right now. He has been telling you that the reason the door has not opened is because of something you did. He has been replaying a specific moment on a loop. That moment when you walked away from someone who needed you because you had nothing left to give. That moment when you chose yourself instead of the assignment. That moment when you just stopped praying because it felt pointless. The accuser is telling you that because of that moment, the blessing has been placed on hold. He is telling you that you disqualified yourself. He is telling you that tonight means nothing for you specifically because your hands are not clean enough to receive it. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Nahum 1-9 says, "What do you conspire against the Lord? He will make an utter end of it. Affliction shall not rise up the second time." Hear that. Affliction shall not rise up the second time. The enemy wants you to believe you are in a cycle. He wants you to believe that your moment of exhaustion, that moment when you pulled back, reset the entire clock and sent you back to the beginning of the wilderness. That is a deception. You are not in a cycle. You are in a conclusion. The pressure you are feeling right now is not the beginning of another lap. It is the final tension before the breakthrough. It is the cord at full stretch, 1 second before it snaps. The heaviness you feel tonight is not the weight of punishment. It is the weight of finality. Something that has had legal access to your life is being forcibly removed, and you can feel the resistance of that removal in your chest, in your sleep, in the silence between your prayers. That moment you walked away was not weakness. That moment you refused to react was not defeat. That moment you chose stillness when everything in you wanted to burn it all down. That was a weapon. That was the act that signed the eviction notice. That was the moment heaven marked on the calendar and said, "This is the day it turns." You did not ruin your destiny. You completed the requirement for it. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus e-book for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let's go deeper into what this moment actually means for you. There is something that has been working against you that you have never fully named. It's not the tangible circumstances, not the people who've crossed your path, not even the adversary as you've often been taught to perceive him. What has truly kept you tethered, what has slammed the door shut, even as the divine was on the other side, with persistent love, pushing it open, is a hidden agreement. It's an invisible covenant, a silent pact you entered into without conscious awareness, inked not with a pen, but with the indelible language of your pain. Imagine a deep-seated assumption, a subconscious blueprint etched by past hurts, dictating the boundaries of your reality. Here is a profound truth that eludes the vast majority. Every time life delivered a blow that fractured your spirit, a searing betrayal, a crushing failure, a prayer that echoed unanswered in the vast expanse of silence, you made a quiet, internal decision. It wasn't an audible proclamation, not a conscious mental decree, but somewhere in the sacred, subterranean chambers of your being, where your very identity resides, you forged a vow. You whispered an unspoken truth to yourself about your inherent worth, about the measure of your deservingness, about the absolute limits of your potential ascent. And that self-imposed vow, born from the crucible of your brokenness, became the unacknowledged ceiling of your life, a transparent barrier you couldn't see but constantly felt. Consider the profound story of David. Long before the gilded halls of the palace, before the weight of the crown, before any outward sign of his anointing, there was a pivotal moment. Samuel, the prophet, arrived at Jesse's household, tasked by God to anoint the next king of Israel. Jesse presented his sons, a lineup of 7, each a picture of potential kingship. Yet, in his vast oversight, he never even considered calling David in from the fields. His own father, the bedrock of his lineage, failed to see him as a viable candidate. Now, for most, this would have been the breaking point, the precise moment they would unconsciously sign that hidden contract. They would internalize their father's dismissal, allowing it to become God's undeniable verdict. They would murmur, "If the very people meant to see me, the ones closest to me, failed to perceive my worth, then surely there is nothing of value within me." David, however, possessed an unyielding spirit. He refused to surrender to this narrative. His quiet, resolute refusal to let another's blindness solidify into his own belief is the divine echo of why the oil of kingship finally poured upon him, bypassing all others. But the depth of this revelation extends far beyond a single vow. It speaks to the very identity that vow meticulously constructs over time. For a belief, when left unchallenged, does not merely remain a thought. It solidifies into a personality. It shapes the very way you navigate the world, the inclination to shrink before you are even asked to, It becomes the internal dialogue that whispers you out of the very callings God is orchestrating for you. You stopped naming it fear long ago, evolving it into a more palatable guise: realism, wisdom, a protective shield against the sting of disappointment. Yet, if you dare to look within with radical honesty, you can discern the subtle yet vital difference between true wisdom and a deeply embedded wound masquerading in wisdom's attire. This brings us to a subtle but crucial oversight, a layer most people completely miss. The longer you harbor a hidden agreement, the more sophisticated the spiritual language you employ to defend and protect it. You might articulate it as, "I am simply waiting on God's timing." And yes, there are sacred moments when delay is indeed divinely orchestrated. But often, that phrase becomes a gilded fortress, the most pious-sounding justification for avoiding the terrifying precipice of acknowledging that God has already set things in motion, and his forward movement is now awaiting your own readiness. The prophet Habakkuk understood this. He didn't merely wait passively. He actively positioned himself on the watchtower, declaring, "I will stand at my watch and station myself on the ramparts." Spiritual waiting, when it is truly aligned with divine purpose, is never a passive resignation. It is an active, expectant, and profoundly prepared posture, a bold stance against the comfortable retreat from risk. Once this foundational understanding settles within you, you are poised to receive the next layer. There exists a discernible pattern that accompanies those chosen by God, a truth rarely spoken with unflinching honesty. It is the pattern of strategic stripping. Before you ascend to your next level, before your appointed promotion, something essential, something that felt like your very foundation, will be intentionally removed. The prevailing reason most individuals interpret this profound process as punitive, or worse, as divine abandonment, is the simple fact that they have not been taught that God does not strip away that which he does not intend to replace with something immeasurably greater. This stripping is not a gesture of rejection, it is an intricate act of preparation. It is the master sculptor meticulously chipping away the excess stone, removing the elements that were never meant to be part of the final, glorious form. Let your mind drift to the profound narrative of Job, not the triumphant conclusion, which is so readily recounted, but delve into the visceral reality of his middle chapter. Imagine the desolate weight of sitting in the ashes, stripped of everything, with those closest to him urging him to curse God and embrace his own demise. Yet, in the very epicenter of that devastating collapse, Job uttered words that possess the power to arrest your soul. "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." This is not the utterance of resignation. It is the declaration of a man who has discovered something so unshakable, so foundational, about the very nature of God, that even the abyss of loss cannot dislodge his conviction. And as we move forward, we will explore the singular truth that Job held, a truth you may have inadvertently forgotten, for it is precisely this understanding that holds the key to shattering the cycles that have held you captive. But before we venture further, this crucial point must deeply penetrate your spirit. The stripping you have experienced, the loss you have endured, is not the tragic denouement of your story. Instead, it is the profound and potent opening chapter of the divine narrative God has always intended to author for you. The sooner you release the lament for what has been removed and begin to earnestly inquire about what is being divinely revealed, the swifter your transition from the barren wilderness into the promised territory that has eternally been yours. Herein lies the wisdom Job possessed, the insight that fundamentally shifted his entire reality. He understood, with an unshakable certainty, that his suffering was not a divine indictment, not a sign that the Most High had averted his gaze. He knew, with profound clarity, that sometimes the Most High permits the crucible of fire not to incinerate, but to make manifest that which could never be perceived in the serene comfort of ordinary life. Gold, precious and pure, does not reveal its true brilliance under gentle conditions. It emerges in its resplendent glory only under extreme heat. And you, the souls currently being forged in the fires of this present season, you who are watching this, who have navigated trials that still defy logical explanation, you are not being punished, you are being proven. There is a universe of difference between these two states, a distinction that represents the most vital realization you will ever attain. Stay with me, for what is about to unfold is the very catalyst that will dismantle the cycle you have been ensnared within. There is a voice you have been unconsciously amplifying, a voice that mimics the cadence of wisdom, but is fundamentally devoid of its divine essence. It masquerades as a guardian, a protector, but it is, in reality, fear that has mastered the art of eloquent expression within the sacred vocabulary of your spiritual journey. It whispers insidious suggestions. Be cautious. You have been wounded before. It cautions. You do not wish to appear foolish. It probes with doubt. What if you are mistaken about this? And on the surface, none of these pronouncements carry an overtly malevolent aura. That is the insidious sophistication at play. The adversary's most potent weapon is never the one that overtly resembles an enemy. It is invariably the one that dons the guise of sound reasoning and prudent advice. True discernment does not commence with acquiring more information or external validation. It begins with the radical act of silencing the cacophony of internal narratives that should never have been granted an auditory platform in the first place. And the method by which you achieve this silencing is not through a futile battle of resistance, but through the profound practice of outgrowing it. When the unassailable truth of what God declares about you resonates with a greater frequency and power than the deeply ingrained echoes of what past pain has compelled you to believe, the counterfeit voice irrevocably loses its hold. Not because you engaged in a protracted argument with it, but because you have transcended the need for its deceptive offering, the seductive illusion of safety found in diminished existence. And this brings us to the precipice of genuine transformation, the true turning point. Here lies a difficult truth, one many find deeply uncomfortable to acknowledge. Some of you are not ensnared in stagnation due to the machinations of the enemy, nor are you perpetually bound by the chains of your past. Rather, a significant number find themselves immobilized by the insidious comfort they have cultivated within their delay. Waiting has become a familiar, almost cozy blanket. The state of almost has become a home, and there is a profound inherent grief that accompanies the exodus from this self-imposed stasis. A grief for the version of yourself that found its identity in the very struggle, in the perpetual narrative of becoming, in the spiritual sympathy that accrues to the one who has yet to arrive. And God is now inviting you to mourn that aspect of yourself, to consciously lay it down, for you cannot fully inhabit the expansive destiny He has meticulously prepared for you while your emotional essence remains residually tethered to the waiting room. The Israelites, after their miraculous exodus from Egypt, did not leave the land only to carry the very essence of Egypt within their hearts. Yet, that is precisely what transpired. They parted the Red Sea on dry ground, a spectacle of divine intervention, only to find themselves within days yearning for the mundane sustenance of their bondage. They missed the leeks and garlic with such profound nostalgia that they harbored a wistful desire to return to slavery. And what appears utterly irrational from an external perspective becomes profoundly comprehensible when viewed through the lens of spiritual truth. The known confines of bondage, however oppressive, will invariably feel more secure than the uncharted territories of freedom, always. This is because true freedom demands a measure of faith that captivity never necessitated. And what I am about to articulate next may well be the most profoundly confronting revelation within this entire discourse. The emergent version of you, the one God is actively calling forth, the very individual He has been meticulously shaping through every season of stripping, every period of silence, every confusing delay. That future self is destined to evoke a profound sense of discomfort within the current iteration of your being. For growth is not merely an additive process, it is an essential death followed by a glorious resurrection. The Apostle Paul articulated this with stark clarity. I die daily. He did not proclaim, I improve daily. He declared, I die. Something must unequivocally cease to exist for the next phase of divine unfolding to commence. And if you have been attempting to transport your former self, with all its ingrained patterns and limitations, into your new season, you have undoubtedly grappled with why the door to your destiny remains stubbornly ajar. You were never intended to pass through it as you were. You were destined to cross its threshold as the transformed individual He has been painstakingly creating. Here resides the unexpected truth, the revelation that reconfigures and imbues with profound meaning everything you have just absorbed. The breakthrough you have fervently prayed for is not primarily contingent upon an external alteration of your circumstances. It is, fundamentally, about times transforming sufficiently to possess the capacity to sustain and steward what God is poised to release. For He is not withholding your promised blessing as a punitive measure. Instead, He is diligently perfecting your internal capacity to receive and carry it. He has witnessed firsthand the tragic outcomes for those who received divine favor before their character was sufficiently formed. He has observed the devastating impact of gifts that ultimately shattered the unformed vessel, and His perceived delay is not born of indifference. It is the most profound expression of paternal love imaginable. It is akin to a father who steadfastly refuses to hand a potent sword to a child, not because he doubts the child's inherent potential for greatness, but because his love for the child compels him to ensure that the greatness arrives only after the character has matured sufficiently to wield it responsibly. You are being meticulously made ready, right now, in this very season that may have felt like an extended period of divine censure. You are being exquisitely prepared, and the precise moment that preparation reaches its divine completion, not when you feel ready, for those chosen for great purpose rarely feel adequately prepared, but the very instant the internal scaffolding is complete, heaven will not hesitate, not for a solitary second. Now, I invite you to place your hand upon your heart and with unwavering conviction declare these words alongside me. I release the hidden agreement I inadvertently made with my pain. I break every silent vow I have spoken against my own inherent greatness. I release the deceptive comfort I have found in prolonged delay. I release the identity I have mistakenly constructed within the confines of my struggle. I am not defined by what sought to break me. I am not limited by what was taken from me. I am not the aggregate sum of every season that defied my understanding. I am precisely who God declared me to be, long before any of it unfolded. I now step forward, with courage and conviction, into the boundless fullness of what I was divinely formed to be. I trust implicitly that what has been stripped away was never my true source of sustenance or strength. I trust with all my being that what is divinely coming cannot be impeded by the shadows of what has already passed. I am chosen. I am being exquisitely prepared. I am profoundly ready. And from this very moment forward, I walk with the unshakable assurance of one who intimately knows this truth. If this message has resonated deep within your spirit, if it has stirred something ancient and true, do not let this sacred moment slip through your fingers without taking deliberate action. Kindly like this video, allowing its transformative power to reach another soul who may be in desperate need of its message tonight. Leave a comment below with the single powerful word, "Ready." Just one word, a declaration that signifies you're stepping forward into this new truth. And finally, subscribe to this channel, because what is unfolding next in this series is poised to guide you even deeper into the liberating truth that was always meant to set you irrevocably free.